Choosing to stay with us. Yesterday, thousands of learners received their matric results, and in a week's time, schools around the country will reopen for the 2015 academic year. In the book, Notes from a Headmaster's Desk, the author Marc Falconer gives insights, music anecdotes, and an insider's perspective on the extraordinary workings of school life, including the partnerships between parents and schools. Marc joins us now from our Cape Town studio. Marc, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, Sam. Thank you, and to you too.
Let's talk about your experience here very quickly and why the urge to put it in book form and pen to paper. You're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a headmaster. When did it pop in your mind that I've got to put all my experience on paper?
I suppose the first, I had a need to communicate with a parent body, and one of the most important things was to try and align what the school does and what parents do. And very often there's a difference in expectation, that parents have an idea of how education should be, and of course they're experts because they've all been to school. And the idea was to try and align those expectations. And I think one of the areas in South Africa that we need to work on as much as possible is to use the parents' involvement in schools, so that we can get education the best it possibly can be.
We often talk about support for teachers, and we often talk about that support coming from an institution perspective, whether it's basic or higher education. And here you're touching on something that's critical. It's also parental support for teachers and understanding that relationship. Why is that one of the things that's really underestimated and undermined in so many schools?
I think a lot of it has got to do with how teachers are seen from a social point of view. I think that, well, I mean, one of my hobby horses is got to do with teacher recruitment and teacher training and teacher resourcing. I think that the educational world has changed immeasurably in the last little while, and I think the impetus is that it's going to change even more. And in fact, it must change more. I think that education. The demands of education are to produce kids, not necessarily ones who do well or don't do well in the matric exams, but kids who are able to take up a place in a 21st century, who are entrepreneurs, who are problem solvers, who are critical thinkers, who can solve so many of the problems that the world has, whether it's climate change, whether it's renewable biofuels, whatever it may be. And I think that's what schools should be working on, is those problem-solving skills, those higher order thinking skills. So for teachers to be equipped to be able to do that, I think we need to be recruiting and training the best possible group of people for that, and they need to be seen as absolutely key in the working of our country for a flourishing democracy. I think that's what we have to have. And unfortunately, I don't think that teachers have the social standing that they should, and I don't think that teachers have the training or resources that they should, and I certainly don't think the recruitment is nearly as rigorous as it should be.
Let's talk very quickly about that, because we can debate at length or ad nauseum about the kind of resources that teachers need, and what kind of resources would work in what environment. But I want to touch on the social standing. I mean, at one point, it used to be, and the community I come from, when you were a teacher or your family or your parents were teachers, it was really was highly regarded. Now, you seem to allude to the fact that maybe teachers are not in the same social standing. Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure why it is. I mean, it's a real sadness, because in many countries, teachers are seen as being community leaders, as being people who really do command social respect, and respect from the pupils and from the parents that they work with. Maybe one of the problems is that in South Africa, which is not the case in some other places in the world, in South Africa, the entry to teaching is lower than it is to many other more discriminating faculties, and I think that's a problem. I think that we need to be getting the best people in teaching, and not, if you can't get into medicine, or you can't get into actuarial science, or you can't get into engineering, you'll become a teacher, and that is a worry.
What is one of the funny anecdotes in your book that you think your readers will relate to?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about the parental support. One of the, I suppose, most typical anecdotes is a conversation I had with a parent who was in a play. He was watching a play with his children, and I happened to overhear him talking to his son, who was moaning that he had to get back early so that he could rewrite an essay that his teacher had said. And the father was going on. He had made a whole lot of money making something called pop ribbits. I don't know what they are, but the father was saying, he was talking about success, and he was saying, I'm successful. I've never been to university. I make a huge amount of money from, creating these pop rivets. What does your teacher know about success? He drives a 12-year-old car. He lives in a shabby suburb. He doesn't know anything about success, and it's that kind of I haven't explained it in the humorous way that it happened, but the idea is that kind of the kind of lack of alignment there of what parents expect, and then sending your child to an expensive school and in making an investment in education, which doesn't necessarily play off in how your approach and your attitude it was funny at the time, but it does point to a serious problem.
Marc Falconer, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us from our Cape Town studios. The book is available in all good bookstores. Go and get it. It's an interesting read. It's really about understanding that relationship between parents and teachers, and maybe a little bit understanding from a teacher perspective the kind of stress and the issues that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. Who knows, maybe it makes you a better parent when you interact with your teacher.